Dave Smith destroys 3 Kamala Harris supporters all by himself in this viral Piers Morgan debate, which is kind of ironic considering Dave Smith is a libertarian. He's not even a Trump supporter, but nonetheless, maybe Kamala Harris supporters really are that lacking in intelligence, because this is exactly what happened. I'm Vince with Resist the Mainstream. If you enjoy our content, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, so we can keep bringing you videos like this. And without further ado, let's get into today's reaction clip.
Look, I'm a libertarian, and so I already know I'm going to lose. So I kind of have an advantage on some of you guys. Like, I'm not married to either side here, but I think people blind themselves with narratives when they're all in on one camp. And to hear you guys, the Democrats on the panel saying like, oh, the Republicans are in freak out mode or something like that. Guys, you literally just removed your candidate to go with another candidate after years of pretending that the emperor had clothes, while the rest of us were all talking about the guy who was clearly suffering through severe cognitive decline. Finally, you guys had to admit it. You pulled him out there. You're now going with a deeply unpopular vice presidential candidate. Look, good luck, but it's a big uphill battle. The fact is that the spin now is that it was just Joe Biden's age. That was the only issue that he slowed down. The truth is that if you look at every single poll, the 2 big issues here are the economy and immigration. I'm not a kid. I don't understand any of your black girl summer references. I don't know what brat means, okay? I'm a dad in my 40s. We've lived through, over the last couple of years, the worst price inflation in my life and the worst immigration crisis in my lifetime. This is a major problem. Kamala Harris is married to this administration, and Donald Trump's got a lot of red meat to run against. That's what this election's going to come down to, and it favors Trump.
Yeah, I agree.
No, it's completely true, and it shows you a lot about how fake the hype is around the Kamala Harris campaign, which is being exposed at the moment, right? You look at the polls, and they have these polls claiming, oh my gosh, Kamala Harris took a mysterious lead, but when you actually delve into the crosstabs, you see massive response bias because the electorate magically became like 20 points more liberal than it was the week before. It's all over the place, astroturfed, right? That's called response bias. And then when it comes to this Gen Z TikTok thing, oh, the brat meme. I mean, first of all, let's be real. How many actual people that are going to vote in the election is that reaching? Not many. But even on top of that, the Kamala Harris campaign is being exposed for paying some of these influencers to create a fake astroturf social media campaign. So that's number one. But Dave Smith also brings up a great point, which is this supposed Republican freakout. Yeah, you guys just changed your candidate right before the election. Of course, Trump is gonna reorient the campaign message. It doesn't mean that we're quote unquote freaking out. I mean, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to the economy, I don't know if TikTok edits of her dancing are really going to convince or sway independent voters. I mean, let's just be real on that. Okay, let's get back into this.
Chris, do you want to respond to that? Let me get Chris to respond, then I'll come to you, Joe.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to say, as a Gen Zer, I just disagree with this. This consistent notion that Kamala Harris is unpopular. Again, yesterday we saw the largest fundraising day in American political history through Act Blue. Grassroots donors, $5, $10, $25. Gen Z is excited for a candidate objectively that's younger, a woman, and somebody who's been like a champion on things like climate and gun reform, et cetera. And I think that Gen Z specifically is a generation, me, myself, I've never seen America at peace. It's been nothing but chaos since I was born in 2002.
Thank you, President Joe Biden,
and we're looking back now and saying, wow, this is really at a boiling point. And what has caused this? And what's caused this is Trump and the MAGA movement doing nothing but pushing division all the time with the lie.
What has caused this? You just said, hold on, let's pause right there. You just said the country has never been stable or peaceful since 2002. You blame that on the Trump and MAGA movement that only began in 2015. That doesn't make any sense. Who was causing the instability and the chaos before that, according to you, Chris? What are you talking about?
And the disgusting, hateful rhetoric. And I think that Gen Z is fired up to move on, to get candidates that actually care about us.
And Chris,
I think one of the bigger issues.
Let me ask you this. You talk about hateful rhetoric from the right to the left, and that definitely has been. It's indisputable. But what about the hateful rhetoric from the left to the right? For example, for 8 years, I've heard people on the left, from the top down, refer to Trump as the new Hitler, as Adolf Hitler. as if somehow he's presiding over a Nazi-style regime, which, if you're too young to remember, perhaps, but the Nazis killed 12 million people, including murdering 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. So it's hard to imagine a more offensive or vile slur or more hateful rhetoric than to compare Donald Trump, who's done none of those things, to Adolf Hitler. So do you accept that people on the left have been just as guilty of hateful rhetoric and contributing to the general toxicity of the debate as people on the right?
That's absolutely true. But again, I want to go back to his point about, oh, the country's never been stable since 2002 when he was born because of Trump and the MAGA movement. Trump has not been in politics since 2002, but you know who has? Joe Biden, his beloved president. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Kamala Harris also was in politics or was close to being in politics for almost all of that time period. Okay, so you want to talk about, oh, my whole life it's been like this. Yeah, that's not Donald Trump's fault. It's the fault of establishment politicians if you're going to blame that on anyone.
Sure, but I do want to point out that, the person who's actually called Donald Trump's America's Hitler is J.D. Vance, his current running mate. J.D. Vance was someone who is very staunchly never
that was wrong too.
If you look at elected officials across the board, Democrats have consistently been the ones to calm the tensions. And look, I disagree with calling him America's Hitler, but if I call Donald Trump a dictator or a threat to democracy, I think it's almost dishonest to not call him that. This is somebody who tried to overturn an election he didn't win with evidence that he didn't win it. And so I don't understand how it's hateful to say that he's a threat to democracy or he's moving us toward authoritarianism. And again, I think that the fact that J.D. Vance is the one who said things like he's America's Hitler goes to the fact that, you have to give up all your morals and all your values and bow to Donald Trump in this party.
Piers, that
all right, let me get a response to that from CJ.
Piers, that's absolutely insane. For Chris to sit here and say that it's dishonest for him not to call Donald Trump a dictator is absolutely laughable. Maybe if Chris actually visited a country with a real dictatorship, he would realize that under a system of governance where real dictators did exist, the conversation, the debate, the discourse that we're having wouldn't even at all be possible. But that's all they traffic in, is all of this hyperbolic rhetoric that has actually no semblance of reality, because they don't actually know how to defeat the president, because he delivered for the American people time and again during his presidency. We had the lowest black unemployment rate. We had record economic growth. We had a secure southern border. All of those things are policy wins that Joe Biden can't brag about. It's exactly why Kamala Harris has to talk about a black girl summer. But here's the reality. Under Kamala Harris, you're going to have a broke girl summer, a broke girl fall,
you said that already.
You
said that.
spring. That is what their policies do.
Come on. You said that already.
Stop.
We heard you.
Yeah, you've said that already. Great. You've got 100 more days to say that. God bless you. Your candidate's winning. We'll see if Kamala Harris can catch him or not. Pierce, just a couple quick points. To Dave Smith, I appreciate the fact that he's a dad in his 40s. I'm a dad in my 60s. Look, I don't belong to either party. I'm not a Democrat. Dave and I probably agree on most policy issues. The difference is
Joe Walsh is not a Democrat. If you don't know who Joe Walsh is, don't worry about it. Just go to his Twitter. I can't stand this fake independent act. I support every Democrat candidate, and I'm an obvious Democrat. I do all the talking points. I'm voting for them and all, but I'm an independent. I don't actually agree with him on everything. I'm a centrist. Really?
I think Trump is a unique existential threat to our democracy. So I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is. Pierce.
I'm going to venture to take a guess after Trump is gone, he's still going to support the Democrats. Okay, do you want to take a bet on that, guys?
To you made a great point early. You said we're living in unprecedented times. A month ago, an 81-year-old candidate for president had a debate and showed that he was not at all ready to continue to be a candidate. He was too old. And the entire Democratic Party rightfully panicked. It is a party process. It's not an election. The party convinced him to step aside, and he made that final decision. This is how the process in each party works. There's nothing undemocratic about it.
There's nothing undemocratic about the people in the United States voting for Joe Biden in the Democratic primary, and then having party elites switch him out. Oh, but you say he made the decision himself. Really? Does anyone really believe that? Okay. Joe Biden was very adamant he wanted to stay in, and then all of a sudden one day decides, I don't really want to do this anymore. No, he was pressured out. Many reports are suggesting they threatened the 25th Amendment against him, okay? It was a coup. It was a coup by all means. And to pretend like that's not the case and to pretend like the party of democracy, oh yeah, we really did that, it was very democratic. That's nonsense. Not a single person, not a single voter in this country voted for Kamala Harris to be their nominee. It's not democratic. Simple as.
Yeah. I just want to say that I think it is wrong to compare Donald Trump to Hitler.
Yeah, Francesca, yeah.
I agree. I think it's absolutely wrong. If you're going to compare him to someone, it's obviously Mussolini, okay? Much more of a showman, great jawline. Wow. I think that is where it happens. And look, Donald Trump by his own admission said he would be a dictator, but only on day one. So guys, let's just listen to him, take him at his word.
But the problem, Francesca, listen, here's the problem. Funny though your quip just was, and maybe you meant it or not, the truth is, I've just noticed that people on the left, when it comes to Donald Trump, they lose their collective minds. The reality about the checks and balances of the American democratic process was they were actually very robust. Trump may not have accepted the result of the 2020 election, but he's not in the White House. He's not president of the United States. He had to go that day.
Have you read?
Bang, out the door. So the checks and balances did work.
I mean, I don't understand. We know you talk to Trump regularly, Piers. I'm surprised you don't have a white bandage on your ear right now, honestly. And we've seen and we've read all 920 pages of Project 2025, and in it says that instead of the police, the military should be patrolling the streets.
Which the president has disavowed time and again.
That is,
the president has said that he does not support Project 2025.
Even though every single person who wrote it was a former Trump advisor. Come on, give me a break. Stephen Miller is in
President Trump himself has said that he does not support Project 2025. We're supposed to think that you believe more about what President Trump believes than what he has said himself. He believes. It's
CJ,
crazy.
Oh, you know what's in his heart. You know what's in his heart.
If you want to see what President Trump believes, go to DonaldJTrump.com, read Agenda 47.
What's in his heart?
Read Agenda 47.
How about this? How about we don't go with what's in his heart and we go with the 4-year track record? I mean, the problem here is that, and look, to your point, obviously the rhetoric on both sides has been elevated tremendously over the last few years. It's been very divisive times in this country. And both sides are guilty of this or right to do it, however you look at it. But people do lose their collective minds when it comes to Donald Trump. Look, these comparisons, the idea that he's some Hitlerian figure is ridiculous. Even the comparisons to Mussolini, this is all silliness. Donald Trump was president for 4 years, okay? He did a lot of things bad. I was a big critic of his foreign policy. His fiscal policy was very bad. I do not think he handled COVID well, but these are problems kind of similar to previous presidents before that. His rhetoric is much more bombastic than other presidents were, okay? That's the reality that we're dealing in. And the fact that you guys have to take this up to 11 as if there's some existential threat to the republic that isn't, by the way, you want to know the real existential threat to, hold on just 1 second, let me finish. The real existential threat to our republic right now is that debt is over, the interest on our debt is overtaking our entire budget. And this is something that Democrats and Republicans are both guilty of. So they don't want to talk about that because it's, it condemns both of them. But the reality of the situation is that whatever happened on January 6th that got out of control, there certainly was violence there. Donald Trump got on a plane and went back to Mar-a-Lago. He was never calling in the military. There was never a chance that he was going to institute a dictatorship in the United States of America. This is all election nonsense. And I'll tell you something, Democrats, you better figure out something else to run against, because this whole Kamala Harris is a prosecutor and Donald Trump is a felon. The American people have rejected this already. No one cares about these charges that wouldn't have been brought to any other former president, okay? This isn't going to do it. You got to have something of substance. The problem is what you guys could actually run against is that Donald Trump was such a disaster through all of 2020, and he kept Fauci on the job, and he kept Americans locked down. The problem is you guys were criticizing him for not locking down harder. So I don't know what angle you're going to find. There's plenty of flaws on him. The problem is you guys are worse on most of the issues he's bad on.
And there you have it. None of these people can handle Dave Smith. He's way too smart for all of them. And in fairness, I don't think in general Dave Smith is the type of guy you'd want to go against in a debate, but they certainly did not fare well. And, you know, he points out something that's very true here, which is all the Democrats have to run on in this election is fear-mongering about Trump and, I don't know, Kamala Harris dancing or something. Do the dance, because when you really break it down, economy, immigration, even something like 2020 that you could try to criticize Trump for, oh, what's that? Democrats love Fauci even more, so it's very true. That said, folks, let me know your thoughts, and until next time, I've been Vince with Resist the Mainstream. Peace.